Hi, this is Sherry Perry from Appalachian Spirits Haunting and Folklore on Facebook. Um, every now and then, I like to get in my Facebook group and just read some stories from different books that I have accumulated about hauntings, especially in West Virginia. And today, I'm going to be reading from the Big Book of West Virginia Ghost Stories by Rosemary Ellen Golly. I'm going to be reading about the Huntington area, some hauntings in the Huntington, West Virginia area. The first one I want to read about is the former Frederick Hotel building. Now, this building is still in use in Huntington. It's across the street from the Keith Albee, which we'll talk about in a minute. There's a restaurant there and some offices and some shops. It's a pretty neat building. It says that it was built in 1905, in between 1905 and 1906 in downtown Huntington. It catered to an upscale clientele. The construction cost was $400,000, which was a fortune in those days. Huntington architect James Stewart designed the hotel in a neoclassical style with an impressive stained glass window in the lobby. The furnishings were elegant and expensive, costing another $100,000. Expensive shops, a fine restaurant, and a basement health club and spa were part of the attraction. The hotel was said to be the best between Pittsburgh and Cincinnati, attracting the rich and famous, among them entertainers Bob Hope and Liberace and President Richard M. Nixon. Celebrities performing at the Keith Albee Theater, another haunted location in town, often stayed there. There are no tunnels connecting the two facilities, despite lore that says otherwise. It was said that the lords of organized crime liked to enjoy the hotel's high life as well. The hotel ceased operation in 1973. Today, the building holds private residences, commercial offices, and a retail space. But in its heyday, everyone loved the Frederick Hotel, and apparently some ghosts still do. A former resident of the hotel who also worked there once said that ghosts lived in his room and kept him awake at night with their arguing back and forth. People who work in the building, as well as visitors who come and go, hear strange, unexplained noises and mysterious footsteps on a daily basis. Ghost and poltergeist activity is the most intense in the restaurant and on the 6th floor. The ghosts of two children frequent the restaurant, which had once been a private men's club during the 1960s. A law firm once occupied the 6th floor. After the firm moved out, other tenants did not want to stay, or so the stories go. A young woman who had a bizarre experience in 2002 during her days as a student. Her mother worked in the building, and on one Sunday, the woman let herself in to use her mother's office off the ground lobby. The building was locked and she was alone. While she worked on her school paper, elevator music was playing in the background. Suddenly, the music stopped and she heard horrific female screaming. It echoed throughout the building. Then, just as suddenly, the scream stopped and the music began again. The young woman was so rattled that she fled the building. The experience did not deter her from going back to the old Frederick again, however, and she had more odd experiences. Once while in the ladies' room, again alone, she heard the sound of someone walking in the hallway jangling keys. She quickly opened the door, but no one was in sight. Who are the ghosts? No one famous or by name seems to be known. Hotels, like theaters, are often reportedly haunted by the spirits of those who stayed or worked there. Many emotional events happen in a hotel, and they leave behind residues that can become hauntings. The Frederick Hotel was the setting for many dramas, which apparently still play out in the halls, and although rumors of a murder-suicide in the building exist, they cannot be verified. Next, I want to talk about the Keith Albee Theater. Now, anyone that was raised in the Huntington, Sarita, Canova area back in the 70s and 80s, and of course it was operated as a theater in the 60s also, but everyone knows that there was no more terrifying experience in the Keith Albee Hotel than having to get up in the middle of the movie and go to the bathroom by yourself. You went down 2 or 3 flights of dimly lit stairs into a section where there were several rooms, because apparently they used to have powder rooms there where women would sit and put on their makeup and freshen up their makeup and stuff while they were on a date. And you had to walk through several of these before you got to the bathroom. And you had to use the bathroom and then go back through that scary, dark place. But about the Keith Albee Theater, it says directly across the street from the old Frederick Hotel is the Rocco-style Keith Albee Theater. Building began in 1926 under the direction of architect Thomas Lamb. The theater, named after a chain of vaudeville theaters, opened in 1928 with 2,720 seats, 1,520 on the main level and 1,200 in the balcony. The theater's original plans were for vaudeville, but when the talking film The Jazz Singer was released in 1927, they were quickly modified to accommodate films. The theater was damaged in the Great Flood of 1937, but recovered. In the 60s and 70s, it expanded, adding 3 more film screens. In 2001, a fire broke out in the building next door, and the theater closed for several months to make repairs. It reopened, but the trend toward mega cineplexes eroded its film traffic, and in 2006, the Keith Albee closed as a film theater. After restoration work amounting to $400,000, it reopened as the Keith Albee Performing Arts Center. The Keith Albee is one of the most haunted locations in Huntington. No surprise, as theaters rank overall high as one of the most haunted places to be. Some of the paranormal phenomena are concentrated in areas where deaths have been reported in the past, in the basement, where 2 electricians were electrocuted, and in the projection room, where a maintenance man died. Another story, unverified, holds that a homeless man who lived in the basement froze to death one winter under the stage. The most famous ghost of the place is not related to a known fatality, however. The lady in red, who wears an elegant red dress from the 1940s and high-heeled shoes, haunts the women's restroom on the mezzanine and also wanders about the main stage after hours when patrons have gone home. In the ladies' room, she especially likes a mirrored parlor, where the patrons might unexpectedly catch a fleeting glimpse of her. No one knows her identity. Was she perhaps a performer there in the past? In the basement, mysterious voices, noises, and footsteps are heard, and the area has a foreboding feel to it. The apparition of a man has been seen flitting about. There are different versions of the story about the electricians and how they supposedly met their end. According to one version, the electricians were summoned to check out some difficulties with the wiring and inspected the electrical panel. They shut down the power in sections of the theater, and when the lights went off downstairs, they assumed the power was also cut to the basement. They touched a live wire with their tools and were electrocuted. Staff found them dead at the scene. The ghost of the man that is seen in the basement is thought to be the spirit of one of the unfortunate electricians. Also in the basement is a ghost that lurks around the ladies' restroom. I told you these restrooms were terrifying. Unlike the lady in red, this one is heard and felt but not seen. Visitors feel as though an invisible presence follows them on the stairs to the restroom and comes inside and watches them. Without a doubt. Terrifying. Another ghost haunts the projection room, the apparition of a gray man. He is believed to be the spirit of the maintenance man, alleged to have died there, possibly of a heart attack. Now, I want to read about Spring Hill Cemetery. Spring Hill Cemetery in Huntington is beautiful. It is so historic. It has sections devoted to every war, the Civil War, World War I, World War II, the Spanish-American War. It has beautiful mausoleums and monuments that you just don't see in modern cemeteries. It's right across the street from the Mildred Mitchell Bateman Psychiatric Hospital in Huntington. The Spring Hill Cemetery was created in 1871, the same year that Huntington was incorporated. The 30-acre cemetery included an old burial area dating back to 1838 and a potter's field. Small family cemeteries were moved in over the years. Originally, the cemetery was on the outskirts of town, but today it lies within the city and now covers 110 acres. The landscape grounds are impressive. The dead include about 300 soldiers from the Civil War, along with Confederate General Albert Gallatin Jenkins and Union General John Hunt Oley, as well as victims of a 1903 smallpox epidemic and a Spanish influenza epidemic that swept the world in 1917 to 1918. The epidemic victims are of particular note. for some may have been hastily buried in mass graves because of fears of contagion. At least, it is not unusual for dozens of people to be buried on the same day. The cemetery has a long history of being haunted. One of the stories dates back to the smallpox epidemic days. William Alfred Bias died of the disease and was buried in Spring Hill. Several of his sons were said to have witnessed a ball of light appear and float over the grave, then drift away. The boys followed it and returned to the family home, where it passed through the front door. Was it Bias making a final visit to his home? People on the grounds at night have seen strange things. One report says that a group of kids went there to play flashlight tag. They suddenly saw an old man sitting on top of a tombstone. When he started moving around, they got scared and left. Several weeks later, they returned to play tag again. They saw the same man sitting on top of the same tombstone, but this time the figure was unmoving. They decided that it was a ghost. Okay, that's it for today. Again, if you like this video, please subscribe. And also visit us on Facebook at Appalachian Spirits, Haunting, and Folklore. Thank you.